Hello, this is Sandra Embleton speaking, and I have had mystical experiences, spiritual encounters, and phenomenal intervention from the supernatural for the last 30 years of my life. My purpose in making this video today is to reach out so that I can share this mystical experience and be heard, because it's a lot easier to watch in a video and sit down and listen to a story when you can look at someone's face and you hear it from them and you have voice inflection. And if you don't have the time to read a book, then just sit back, relax, and enjoy this amazing story. And I'll be as concise as I possibly can. My mystical spiritual adventure probably started when I was born, but let's just go to 1993. In 1993, I encountered I had a spiritual experience where I was alone in a home, and I was spending a few days there by myself to just get a little bit of rest and relaxation. But at the time, I started to be able to hear or be guided by a knowing. It was like a knowing inside of me, and this knowing started off with, this is where you're to go. So moving into that courage that allows you to listen to Spirit's urging, which I know you share, it was something that I made the decision, I'm going to listen to what I'm being guided to do. Anyway, the long and the short of it, I went to my in-laws' place. I was there by myself, and when I arrived, I was eating lunch. I was told to eat tuna. I was told to eat fish. After I finished eating a sandwich, I was told to lie down, and as I lied down, I left my body. I went out. I don't know for how long I was out, but it was could have been 5 minutes, could have been half an hour. And when I awoke, I couldn't move my body. I'm lying on the couch in the living room, totally conscious but unable to move my body. At that particular time, I felt a pair of hands go on the top of my head, and there was this breath. It was like, this breath went into me from the top of my head, and after it did, I sat up, I was able to move again, and I wondered, oh my God, what was that? The next day I was practicing yoga, and as I was doing the yoga postures, I was laying on the floor, and I was in that same position that Christ was on a cross. And then all of a sudden I felt myself leaving my body. And I went up through the ceiling, and I left, and again I was out of my body. And when I came back, I opened my eyes and I could speak to God. I could speak to God so clearly. My thoughts had accelerated, and this energy was upon me that wasn't there before. This particular energy that was upon me lasted for a 3-week period. In this 3-week period, I was so alert, so aware, so awake. My only saving grace was that I read the Celestine prophecy. And because of that, reading that Celestine prophecy, I knew something was going on, and I knew it was of a spiritual nature. So it helped calm my fear, but more than that, it ignited my curiosity. And I was going out throughout my world trying to understand what was happening to me. The first thing I wanted to do is, why is this happening? What's happening? Why can I do this? How come I can hear God so clearly? And then I had a number of other spiritual adventures and messages that came to me. But after the point being that after a 3-week period, I couldn't find anybody that could hear me. I couldn't find anybody that would understand what was happening to me. I even sat down with a council of people from my church, and they're all looking at me like, okay, sure. But they hadn't experienced a mystical experience that I had. So they had no point of reference. They couldn't relate to me. After 3 weeks, my disposition had changed to the point where I felt so lonely. I felt, am I the only one that's ever gone through anything like this? No one in my world, no one in my life can hear what I had to say. My heart went out to my husband, because I came home after this and I said, Dave, I have to go, I have to leave. I can talk to God, and the world needs my help. I got to do something. with this gift I've got. And he looked at me, and at the time I had 3 kids, and he's kind of like, do you have to go now? And I kind of went, well, maybe I don't have to go now, but I have this amazing gift. Well, after the 3 weeks, I asked that God took it from me because I just wanted to be normal like everybody else. So, so he did. So it was, the intensity of it was removed, but the communication and my ability to communicate with spirit never left. I started doing Reiki and reflexology. I got my teacher's certificate to teach yoga, and began wholeheartedly on this spiritual journey. What happened in 2001 was phenomenal. I was teaching a yoga class, and normally I had 12 students, and all of a sudden one person shows up. Like, where is everybody? How does that happen? And this woman and I were talking. We were doing a bit of yoga, and all of a sudden I heard this voice very clearly tell this woman at the time of Christ this is who she was. And you're hearing this, and I knew enough at the time to honor spirit speaking through me. But at the time in 2001, you didn't really talk about spirituality openly like that, or you could lose your job, or you could get fired. And it was amazing, but God had the room cleared. There was no one else to overhear us. We became just the 2 of us, isolated within the company of God. And I said to her, this is who you were when Jesus walked the earth. And she says, how do you know that? And I said, I don't know how I know it, but it's what I'm hearing and I'm telling you. And she said, oh my God, that makes so much sense to me. I've always believed that. I've always known that. And I said, wow. I said, okay. So this, at the time I was teaching yoga and I was teaching meditation classes out of my church. In walks this woman who I'd never met before. Her name was Rose. And after she'd been there the second week, I approached her because I started hearing that at the time of Christ, she was Joseph. She was Jesus' father. So I went up to her and I approached her and I said, I have to give you this message. And she said, okay. And I said, I've got this ability for some reason to know who people were when they walked the earth. And at the time of Christ, this is who you were. You were Joseph, Jesus' father. And she looked at me. And being a very strong Roman Catholic, she's just like, oh my God, what is this woman telling me? And as she looked at me, she says, I can't believe you're saying this to me. I don't know how you can talk like that. And it made me a bit embarrassed, but I said, I'm not asking you to believe it. I'm not making you believe it. I'm just letting you know this information that I'm getting. And she said, well, you're asking me to believe out in all of the world, not in Jerusalem, not in the Holy Land, nowhere else, but at the time of Christ, people who walk the earth at the time of Christ are congregating here in Oakville, and they're coming to you. That's what you want me to believe. And I said, look, why don't you go home? Why don't you pray about it? Why don't you ask God? And he'll give you an answer or whatever, but I'm going to let it go now, but I'm giving you the message. The next week, that same woman, Rose, comes barreling back in the class. She walks up to me. She goes, you're not going to believe this. I go, what do you mean? She goes, sit down. I have something to tell you. And I said, okay. She says, I was walking through the mall on Saturday with my daughter. And at the time, she said, we were like, there was lots of crowds. There was lots of people. And she said it was Saturday. And so that's why it was so busy. And we're walking in the mall, and this man comes towards me. He's got a bright red shirt on with big, big letters across the chest. And she said, and the letters read, Bethlehem, Jerusalem, Galilee, Oakville. And she thought at the time, who has a shirt made up like that? I'm going to talk to this guy. And she turns around, and he's absolutely gone. He disappeared into thin air. She goes into the Shoppers Drug Mart. She's going, here, has anybody seen a man in a bright red shirt with Bethlehem, Jerusalem, Galilee, Oakville written on her shirt? And everyone's looking at her like, what? And she said, Sandra, she said, I think I got my sign. And from that point on, we kind of became friends because, I was teaching her yoga and meditation, but we weren't in each other's life that often. But anyway, we maintained contact. At the same time that this was happening, I had a woman in my yoga class who was a doctor of psychology. She had undergone an illness and had asked me to come over to her home to do her feet and to perhaps aid in her healing journey, which I volunteered to do. The first night I'm at her home, we're sitting there, we're by herself in the house, and I'm doing her feet, and I thought, this lady's a doctor of psychology. This is a great opportunity to kind of run this by her and see what she thinks, because if I'm nuts, like, she's probably gonna tell me that. So as I'm doing her feet and we're talking, I tell her the story. I said, look, people are coming to me from the time of Christ, like, this is really happening to me. And she said, she listened to me, and then she went right into the knowing of it. Like, she just knew it, and she believed me. And then she said, Sandra, I've had accidents all my life, like walking into glass windows, stepping on rakes, stepping on a rake and the pole in your face, sea-doos going through water. She said, I've had accidents all my life. And then I'm hearing to tell her that at the time of Christ, she was part of the Sanhedrin. She knew the plan to kill Christ. She tried to stop it, but she couldn't. And for all of her lifetimes after that, she's been trying to help to fix that, to change it. She's been punishing herself. And I said, you don't have to punish yourself anymore. You're here to help this lifetime. You're here to change that. You're here for a reason. And then after that, we became good friends. And it was amazing, because this woman was a very straight AAA personality. And yet when I was around her, the two of us could know things that were inexplainable. So we became friends and meditated together over the years. In 2000, and then I started writing these adventures down. I started writing it because the purpose of my writing was, who's going to believe this? I better write it down so I don't forget what's happening to me. So I wrote The Roman Soldier, and in 2002 to 2004, I guess, about that time frame. And in 2005, I'm meditating. I meditate regularly. I spend time with God regularly. In 2005, I get this message from God. I'm hearing on the inner, and it starts telling me, Sandra, to collect the 500. Sandra, collect the 500. And I'm going, okay, God, I'll collect the 500, but 500 what? 500 souls? Like, what am I to collect? Sandra, collect the 500 souls. Now I'd hear this, I'd write it down. I didn't know how to do it or what to do about it. I just heard it on the inner, this is what I was to do. And it would come up again and again for the next 3 or 4 months, 6 months. And I'd write it down and I'd just be with it. I didn't act on it. I just was with it. And then I got another message, and the message was, Sandra, you're going to get a book. Okay, Lord, do I go buy this? Is this a book I've written? Will someone give it to me? I got no answer, just, Sandra, you're going to get a book. Okay, fine. So I hadn't heard from Rose for a while. And one day she called me up and said, come on over for tea. We haven't spoken to with one another for a while. Come on over, let's catch up. Well, she had no idea what was going on for me. It was a Thursday morning. I drove up to her home. I opened the door and she looks at me and she goes, you're meant to be here today. And I go, why are you saying that? She says, no, your coming was heralded. I go, what? She goes, my phone rang this morning at 7 o'clock and a man asked if Sandra was there. So you're meant to be here. And I go, okay. So I walk in, she hangs up my coat. She's walking back to her kitchen to make us a cup of tea. She stops dead in her tracks and she turns to me and she says, oh my God, almost forgot to tell you. Sandra, God's been coming to me and telling me I have to get you a book. Well, like, my jaw hit the floor, and I'm standing there and I'm going, you're kidding me. Because now it's not just me. Now it's not just I'm hearing things. It's God's working through me and he's working through her. So I said, you better sit down, because I'm going to tell you what I'm hearing. I'm hearing I have to collect the 500 souls. And I know who people were when Christ walked the earth. They're coming to me. So if you get this book, I bet you it's supposed to be blank. When these people come to me and I find them, I'm going to have them sign this book. Okay, she said. We did a little prayer. We had some holy water. We had a little ceremony, a little ritual, and off I go. 7 months later, this same woman calls me. She has the book. She brings it to me. And now I've got this amazing, beautiful book. It's leather. It's made in Italy. It's got the 3 graces on the front of it. And I've got this beautiful book. And I'm saying to God, okay, now what do you want me to do? I'm not hearing anything. Okay, like, I'm ready to go, but I'm not sure how to go about doing this. And I just kind of put it under my bed and just said, I'm sure when God's ready to tell me, he'll let me know. And then one day I get this idea, you know who might know what I'm to do with this is Dr. Brenda Tamini. I'm going to give her a call and see if she can see me. So I give her a call. I tell her I have something, a story I have to tell you. And she says, okay, come on over. So I end up going over with my friend Karen. We have lunch with Brenda. Brenda's son is in the home, and Karen and her son go downstairs. So now I'm alone in the kitchen with Brenda. And I say, Brenda, this is really wild, but I have to tell you what's happening. And I said, God's brought me this book. And I pull it out of its sleeve and I show it to her. And the most amazing things happen. She takes the book and she grabs it, right? And I show her the book and she grabs it and she goes, oh my God, Sandra, this is our book. This is our book. And I go, what are you saying? She says, no, Sandra, this is our book. She said, we lost it. We tried to do this in another lifetime. And this is the book we used. And you found it. You found it. Well, you could have blown me over with a feather because I'm like knowing nothing's in that book. But here this woman is remembering this book. So we're standing in her kitchen and she's got a hold of the book with one hand and I've got a hold of the book with the other hand. And all of a sudden the Spirit of God entered into the room. It went underneath the kitchen floor, underneath the kitchen door. It came in under the door, along the floor. It went up her back, down her front, through the book, up my front and down my back. And we're standing in her kitchen and we can't move. We cannot move. And we're standing there and I'm looking at her and she's looking at me and I'm going, Brenda, I can't move. Brenda, I can't move. And she's saying, I can't move either. And I go, Brenda, what's happening? What's happening? Can you see all the light in the room? And the room is filled with light. And she's looking at me. She says, Sandra, she said, this is God's book. And I said, it is, isn't it? And she said, no, God's telling us that this is his book. And I said, he is, isn't he? And she said, yes. And once we got the message, the energy came up my back, down my front, through the book, up her front, down the back, and back out the same way it came underneath the kitchen door. So we figured we tried to find these signatures at the time of Camelot, at the time when the veil was thin, at the time when you were able to go between the different conscious levels. And this is the time we tried to gather that book. Anyway, as a result, I went home, and every once in a while I get a feeling, well, I should start collecting signatures. One night I collected them at a party, and after that, it wasn't until 2009 when I was holding a meditation in my home that a friend said you should start collecting the signatures, and at that point I did. So since 2009, I have been living the most incredible, miraculous life. I have had people come to me, literally come to my front door, and they come there and they say, I don't know why I'm here, but I'm dreaming of your front door and your walkway. And I go, I know why you're here. Come on in. You're here to sign this book. So my life has been trying to record this, making videos, trying to share this amazing, miraculous story, hoping that someone will hear it, people will hear it, and they'll be guided to I guess, be excited that there's this amazing plan to gather the souls together that were present when Christ walked the earth. And at times I thought, okay, this is because he's coming. His presence is going to be here. And so I'm going to continue to get these signatures no matter what. I just promised God I would get the 500 signatures. In 2013, I got a phone call from a man who saw one of my videos on YouTube. And he called me up and he said, I was watching your video and I couldn't help but call you because you carry the same light I do. I recognize your light. The light in your eyes is the same as mine. We have the same light. We share the same energy. And I thought, well, that's wonderful. I'm glad he called and said that to me. He's probably meant to sign the book. So it took a month and a half for us to finally get together, and we agreed to meet in Newmarket. That night when I met him, I was going to a meditation there. And when I walked into this restaurant where we arranged to meet one another. He walked up to me and he said, Sandra, he said, you were my mother in a past lifetime in Italy. And I went, oh, that's a catchy line. I'm listening. And he went on to say that you carry the light. You are pure love. You are the goddess energy. You are to bow down to no one. He said you are to have your own things because you are what people aspire to be. You are the goddess. You are pure love. You are that true love. And I was like, wow, like, he just let me know what it is he had to say. We sat down, and within 5 minutes, I was like getting hotter and hotter and warmer. I started feeling all these, this energy that was coming into me so rapidly. My temperature was going up, and I'm sitting looking across from this man, and all of a sudden, the face of Jesus holographically came out of him, and he looked at me and said to me, I'm in here. And he went back into this man. And I sat there because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I kind of went into shock. And then I said, thank you for showing me the Christ in you. And he said, you're welcome. And he kept talking to my friends. But meanwhile, I'm across from him going, oh my God, I want to ignore what just happened. But I really saw that. And here I only had 178 signatures. And it's like the Christ showed up. So my journey has been nothing short of miraculous. I've written my books to try and record this spiritual adventure, to share it with the world, to share it because I believe it's very important to be heard. I'm telling you this because there's not many people on the planet that have had the mystical experience that I have had, but I know, Dr. Hurtak, I know you have. So you're probably one of these people that could understand where I'm coming from. I am coming this Easter to your conference, and I'm going to bring this book with me. I actually brought it with me when I met you in Toronto last November, but I wasn't guided to have you sign it then. I'm meditating, and I'm so nervous about making this video and telling you what's going on. And this morning I meditated. This is amazing, but Dolores Cannon was right there. And she comes to me, and I'm saying, Dolores, should I make this video? What, I'm so nervous about sending this and putting this out there. And she writes on a piece of paper, they are all waiting for you. And I went, wow, okay. And I went into meditation, and I went into the upper room. And there in the upper room were the doctors Hurtak, and so many people were sitting there waiting for this book to sign it. So I'm just giving you what I know. I'm detaching from the outcome of this, but I am coming there. I'm bringing this book. And for those souls who need to hear this, I've had people, when they see the book on the video, they say, turn off the video. As soon as I saw that book, I know I'm needing to sign it. So that might be the reaction for you. It might not. It might be the reaction for anyone who's watching this video, that they're inside saying, oh, Sandra's coming. I knew I had to go to that conference. I knew there was something happening. So that's why I'm making this video. I'm going to post it. I'm going to share it with you. And I know that whatever is to happen next will happen. But I'm having the courage to speak my truth, just like you did, Dr. Hurtak, risking all to share with the world this heroic journey, this hero's journey that we have been taking, in hopes that we can lift the frequency of mankind, that we can make a difference. And right now I can tell you that this book seems to be attracting the prophets to sign it now. So we'll see. Thank you for your time.